All right, what am I doing? A lot. I was supposed to be fishing this morning, but I just couldn't do it. Slept in. Big day yesterday. And as well, I did a conversation directly with a solid dude, Nate Rudd, and photographs, and he shared with me on video multiple experiences he's had. Family members of his have had experiences. Outfitter, father-in-law is an outfitter. He's had experiences. Clients have had experiences with him in the States, Western Washington, Eastern Washington, Idaho. And him and his friend were basically terrorized nightly in a remote camp in their tent. So we did a video last evening. I'm loading it right now, actually. And that's going to go on the membership segment for a while. We both agreed solely to help feed the children. Got a problem with that? Oh well. So on top of that, same day, 2 videos, so nobody's left out. You're going to hear some more voices right now while I'm loading that video. All right? Nate's solid dude. He got involved with this topic, looking into it for quite some time. He's got a lot to share, so I'll leave it at that. What else? This Friday, Nino is back up together with me again and carrying it on. But enough babbling. Listen to this. This is titled, 2 Memories 25 Years Apart and Only 200 Yards from Each Other. First, please refer to me as Ted if you decide to share my encounters. Thank you for that. I've been an avid 4th generation outdoorsman my entire life, and I've always wanted to share my story with someone like you, an avid outdoorsman. At the time of this encounter, I was 10 years old. I was squirrel hunting in August with my .410 shotgun that was my great-grandfather's on a piece of wildlife management area property, WMA. I had hiked and hunted in those woods on my own and with my grandfather for years before, and I still use those woods after my experiences, but I have never been in those woods without reminiscing that memory from so long ago. It was around noon, and I was on my second trip to the woods of the day. I just shot a gray squirrel with my single-shot .410 and went to pick it up. And, upon picking it up, the dead squirrel, I turned around and noticed something walking towards me. Not a word was exchanged, and all I did was raise up my squirrel to show this thing my harvest. The reaction this thing did was to open its mouth and showcase its teeth. Its teeth were extremely wide and oversized. I never said a word. And then this thing walked off through the timber. The entire encounter lasted about 2 minutes. This thing was about 5 feet tall, very thick, had matted hair covering itself. The head was pointed with a gradual slope. No smell at all. Dark facial skin with sunken eyes. And lastly, this thing was calm. And I never felt threatened at all. I told my grandpa and dad about my experience, and they deducted it was an older African American with odd camouflage. Fast forward 25 years or so. I was bow hunting 250 yards from the squirrel ridge. I had my encounter. And the second strangest thing happened to me. It was about 15 minutes to sundown, and I could hear something walking through the dried corn rows. And then a gust of wind blew from me to the cornfield where the noise was coming from. Immediately at 40 yards, whatever it was stopped in its tracks. At that moment, I felt like something was looking right at me, and my nerves spiked. There was no movement or sounds for almost 10 seconds, which seemed like eternity. And then all of a sudden, something ran off with such force, such violence, and speed, I was immediately concerned. I stayed in the tree stand until dark and then walked back to my grandparents' house, which is about a mile total. The entire time walking back in the dark, I had a feeling that I was being followed/stalked. I've been in those woods hundreds of times since, and not one thing happened I could not explain. These 2 moments in my life are very curious to say the least. I continue my journey for answers, and in my quest, I have found similar stories and descriptions to my experiences, which makes me feel better. I do believe what I saw was something I've never seen since, But with all my heart and honor, I believe I was supposed to have had that experience. Lastly, thank you for taking your time to allow people like me to share my story with. Ted. Gotcha, man. Appreciate you. That's one hell of an experience for a boy to have. I'm so glad it didn't trash you. Right? Thank God it didn't impose the terror into your soul. Wow. Thank God you still go in the woods, man. I appreciate you sending that in. I wonder if you've met anybody around your community that's had the same experiences, or if you feel confident enough to sort of bring it up on the sly. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a group of people or a couple of people, whatever, and just say, anybody ever see anything kind of weird in the woods? You know what I mean? It'd be good for you to find somebody around your community that's seen the same thing. Another one, 6 years of Sasquatch. Hey, Steve, when we lived for 6 years in Joliet, Illinois, Joliet, Illinois, we lived across the street from Olivet Cemetery, Olivet Cemetery, which leads straight into the woods. Our first hint they were real were huge footprints, 7 feet apart in the snow, heading into the woods. Then the first spring through fall, I heard them every night. They had a schedule, April through October, hooting, whooping, and even trilling, which I was told was a baby with the mother cooing to it, right next to my window. We don't have a fence at first, so they walked through our yard every night. They seemed to respect the frail fence we put up, but anytime my husband took it down, they were there. One time, one of them looked into the window next to my couch and left a foot-long handprint on the window. I don't have a camera at the time, darn it. Another time, my bathroom window over the toilet was open 2 inches. I went to the bathroom, and my wolf dog came with me. She was in heat, and I was on my monthly too, so I guess it was overwhelming to the Sasquatch. It was right behind my neck at the window, heavy breathing, grunts, and growls. Infrasound, I've never felt fear like that before, which I now know to be from. It triggers intense fear. I never want to live that close to the woods again. Love your YouTube videos, great work. Well, that's too bad that it's trashed you for wanting to live near the woods again. That's unfortunate, but it's common. Another member of the club comes forward, right? Appreciate you sending that in. Big time. This one's titled, About the Email from V. Hi, Steve. I listened to that email several times. I believe he is very on point. I've been digging for many years on many subjects. I think I will do this in bullet form, as I tend to jump all over the place with what I've learned. Number 1, Rome didn't die. What do you think the Roman Catholic Church is? Why do they have their own kingdom and guards? What was the Inquisition really about? It wasn't about witchcraft. It was about getting rid of people who had abilities. I call it the knowing. The thing when you know about something, but you don't know how you know. You experienced it when Mr. Macaroni passed away. You knew, but you don't know how you knew. It is a natural ability that we all have dormant in us. We all have it. And it doesn't just involve knowing when someone passes. Number 2, almost all history is a twisted lie of what really happened. Darwinism is a theory. Gravity is a theory. This is for the Bible thumpers. In the Bible, it states that Adam lived 980 plus years. If the Bible is true to God's word, then we all should be able to visit his burial site. Wasn't the earth just 6,000 years old? Why do you think they want priests or reverend or whomever in charge of us learning the Bible? So they could gloss over the facts that they didn't edit out of the Bible. Yes, there are many things edited out of the Bible. It is used as a form of control in our beliefs, edited by kings and the Vatican, more like approximately 350,000 years ago. But I suck at math. That's just my best guesstimation. Then the flood, not by God, but by the rapid warming from the Ice Age and the Arctic ice shelf slipping into the ocean. Something that some people were aware of, hence the Noah and the Ark story. That didn't happen 3,000 years ago. closer to 20 to 30,000 years ago. How is it that people supposedly a step away from monkeys in evolutionary terms could paint and carve into rocks the same images, signs, and figures? Figures that appear to be wearing Mesopotamia-style jewelry, head dressing, and clothes. They saw it. If there were no way to travel from country to country, call it a rock art. I call it a hidden language we don't have a translation for yet. Megalithic buildings and walls all over the world, even in the United States, Montana, and California. I had to laugh. I watched a video of a person digging for opals. He was pulling actual wood out with the opals attached to it, all the while exclaiming, "This is 160 million years old." Didn't even question how there was still actual tree wood and bark in the soil that he could use to make a fire. Unquestioning of the school indoctrination. History is a lie. I hate the fact that I have to try and learn this by myself. I really don't like math. Excuse me. Number 3, when you see a pattern, there must be something to it. V, saying he was a young boy and training for ops. I have heard that from several different sources over the years. First time I was very skeptical. Second, third, fourth, well, there appears to be a pattern. Different people, different stages of my own learning. I've been searching for the truth for a very long time. Let's just say a tad more than 20 years. Number 4, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I know Sabe is real. I didn't see them. I sent you the story about a year ago. I know you're jam-packed with emails, and I'm not complaining. It happened in Tug Hill Plateau, New York. It's auto-corrected to Tut Hill Plateau. I didn't see that until after I sent it to you. I, for one, would definitely like to hear more from this emailer, V. May the one true Creator bless you and your family, keep you protected and safe from all harm. Sincerely, Cindy from California, New York. All right, Cindy, appreciate you. It's frustrating doing all the digging for yourself, isn't it? It's like I said before, I feel like I'm learning all over again and I'm running out of frickin' time. And that is true. Actually, for me, that's true. Gosh, I'm just like on this sprint. I'm just sprinting through every single day, trying to learn more, digging. And it's so time consuming. There's so much information coming from all angles, as you know, Cindy, right? It's a frustrating ride when you know. You take from what you, or leave it, whatever I say. Never take my word as gold for facts, but I can tell you what, for me, I know we've been lied to. It's so obvious in my face we've been lied to from day one. It's frustrating. I don't want to, you know, how many years of being duped before you finally figure it out, and then it's like, oh, shit. Oh, you bastards. Now I got to catch up. Damn it. That's where I am. And I'm sure a lot of you are too, hopefully. I appreciate you sending that in. Who's next? All right. Just had to step out a minute. Got a heat lamp on the go in the house, some chicks, and that kind of bugs me when there's a couple cats running around. Make sure there's no accidents and the house isn't burning down while I'm out in the shop. This is titled The Power of These Beings. 3 minutes to read. Might be 6 minutes for me. You said at the end of a recent video that so many people don't want to be motivated. I agree that there are many who don't, but I also think that a lot of people are already motivated, like me. We just have no idea what to do to change things, like me. Probably like many of your subscribers do, too. I think these beings could help us. We're all dressed up but nowhere to go. That's why we like you. I'm not so interested in channels that tell us all the insidious things going on. I know now. I need a channel that tells us how to fight back, how to dismantle our government, which is our right. And in America, it's a right protected by our tattered Constitution. But what are the mechanics? How do we start? That's what we need to hear about. For not the first time, I'll bet that the beings discussed on this channel could go a long way towards helping us to take down the fracking evil, sick people at the helm. The first and main thing we need to do is to fix everything, is to get rid of the moneylenders. Jesus threw them out of the temple because he, who is so much wiser than we, knew that they were the problem. Once he was physically gone from here, they just crept back in, reestablished themselves, and yada, yada, yada. Here we are today. Doing this would remove a lot of what motivates the government leaders of this world to do wrong, like spending our hard-earned money killing people in other countries instead of feeding the hungry in their own countries, in order to enrich themselves. I would love it if you saw this email in time, and should you choose to meet these beings, throw the idea out there to them. Certainly it would be as much of a benefit to them as it would be to us, and ask them to also please cure the cancers plaguing Edward and his associate, if that's in their arsenal. Could you imagine if after all these years of soaking up the knowledge of these beings, they showed up like superheroes and rescued us? Woohoo! Maybe this is why they're here. Tell them to start with the Rothschilds and George Soros. Thanks, Steve and Sarah, for your time and dedication to this movement, this sharing of knowledge and connecting like-minded people, and especially thanks for feeding the hungry children. Many blessings on you. Hey, appreciate the kind words and the concern. I thought about if these beings are as old as some people feel they are, they're probably just watching us. Let's just say they are thousands of years old or whatever they are. They're probably just watching us, kicking back, going, oh boy, here we go again. What stage of the game are they at this time? Well, it shouldn't be long until they correct themselves by annihilating themselves. You know what I mean? I mean, wouldn't you be doing that if you were thousands of years old and you've seen these little wiener humans hit the face of the planet and start doing their silly shit all over again? Repeat, 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 right? What can you do? You know what? Tim Kennedy is doing a lot. Holy cow. If you watch that podcast of Tim Kennedy on the Sean Ryan podcast and possibly the last hour, you'll get a big idea. And before I watch that podcast, I've always said it. You know, people don't think they can do anything, but you can. All you have to do is teach your children. Teach your children the truth. That's all you got to do. All change starts with the children. That's why the children are targeted, right? That's why. If you don't think you can do anything, just make sure you teach your children truth. That's it. Teach them right from wrong, teach them the truth, and also point out to them who the bad players are and what they have done and what they're doing, so they know from the word go. Create community, like we have here, and all of a sudden become powerful, and there's nothing but good, like here. Bit of a babble. But first and foremost, never give up. Right? Never give up. 1 visual, 3 experiences. Greetings, Steve Ron here. I've been listening for a few months. I tried messaging you once before, but I couldn't get it to go. Starting with my background, I too am a guy that tries to be outside whenever possible. I'm a retired aircraft mechanic working mostly in the upstate New York area, 45 minutes from the Adirondack Mountains, and a couple of years in Kotzebue, Alaska? Kotzebue, Alaska. Never been into hunting or fishing. Yes, dirt bike riding since 11. I've had a sixth sense, I'll call my spidey sense. All my family, and call it paranoid or chicken shit. Well, first off, let you know that I have had a few TBIs and a stroke. I'm not nuts, but my timelines could be off a year or so. The memories are crystal clear. First, in the fall of '82, I was in the 10th grade. I finished dinner with my family, and I left to go see a friend at his father's car repair shop. It was 5-ish p.m. The ride was only approximately 1.5 miles. 1/3 back road, 2/3 woods, and passing an open landfill, a dump. After leaving the roadway, I went up into the wooded area overlooking Oriskany Creek, Oriskany Creek. I stopped on the top of a ridge to have a cigarette and check out the great view. I stopped, got off, lit a smoke, and walked this ridge, 25 feet or so, each way from my bike. Just looking at the sunlight and the trees and the creek below, guesstimating 150 to 200 feet down. I got that buggy feeling like I wasn't alone. I stepped on the cigarette, walked to my bike, and started looking straight down from the bike. I saw it, but it didn't register what I was looking at. We stared at each other for probably 45 seconds, and he was standing on a lower, less used trail, approximately 50 to 75 feet away. Once my brain caught up, I booted my bike to life and raced to the shop. I've never been back there by myself ever again. A couple years later, same friend, he and I went out at night. We decided to bust open a new bike trail using my 67 Chev pickup. We plowed in a sapling grove about 30 feet. I did this a few times, laying them down. The last run in, the exhaust pipe tore off. We backed to a small road/trail, shut it off, left the lights on, and began to see if we could fix it. With the hood open, we sat there looking at the engine with Bic lighters, and that's when we heard massive footsteps coming down a hillside. We hopped in the truck. Noticing the hood was still open, I said, "I'm driving, you close it." Never seen a thing. Approximately 1/10 of a mile from my sighting. The third experience, same friend. We were woods cruising in a, I believe, 71 El Camino on a highly lifted Blazer 4x4. That's so rad. It's funny. I'm 5'6" tall, and I climb into this by grabbing an internal roll cage, driving on a small road/trail. Something rammed/hit the right rear quarter panel, somewhere in the 4 to 4.5 foot area. 4 to 4.5 foot area. It rocked the truck so violently that we both thought we were going to tip over or crash. Oh, and this is the exact same area as the second time. My friend just laughs about it until I pressed the fact on how he was scared shitless those 2 times. I won't use his name. He never used to drink, but now it's every day. I'm not saying this caused it, but denial is easier when you're soggy. I'm Ron Chamberlain. Ron, appreciate you sending that in, man. You didn't give much of a description of what you saw, though, did you? I saw it, but didn't register what I was looking at. We stared at each other for probably 45 seconds. He was standing. Yeah, you didn't describe it. Though we've had the description a million times, but whatever. An El Camino on a Blazer. What was wrong with the Blazer? Just kidding, man. The Sixth Sense. I'm going to tell you a quick story, okay, guys? I was thinking back. I've been writing my book, so I'm just waiting on the publishing part of it right now, but it's about blacktail deer hunting, and it really took me back to a lot of memories. I had to dig back in a lot of old photos, and a memory came up of when I believe I was aware for the first time of my sixth sense and being in tune. Now listen to this. So I was in the Victoria Highlands, and this is in the same range where I had my experience. For all I know, it could have been the same year, I don't know, but it's right back in the exact about the same time frame. But anyway, unrelated to the encounter, I had come across a great big buck in the forest, in the timber, and up in the top of this ridgeline was real good game trail. You know, I figured that this guy was laying down in there, up high, up on this mossy bluffs and big timber. But I could if I went dead slow enough, I could walk along this game trail. And I'm talking, I was going so slow, it was ridiculous. Like I wouldn't move anything except I just tried to move from the knees down so slow because I knew he was laying in here somewhere in his thick. And I'll never forget this. I'd gone in about, I don't know how far. I got in about 200 yards into it. I'd save it for the end of my day. I'd hunt a bunch of other areas, then I'd go over there and I'd go into the bedding area and I'd go through there like a snail with an arrow on my bow. And I vividly remember, going down the trail facing this way the whole time, and all of a sudden I'm like, uh-oh. Just like that. Uh-oh. And 90 degrees to my right, there he is laying down about 20 yards away from me, looking right at me. And yes, I did get him with my bow. Great big old buck. But what I'm saying is, that's the first time I remember feeling whatever it was. Am I feeling looked at? Or am I just aware of the presence from its eyeball? Whatever you want to call it. Sixth sense, feeling something staring at you, but it was 110%. I didn't see that thing walk along. He was laying here, I'm walking along here, and I was coming along. He probably watched me come the whole way and was waiting for me to go right by him. And then 90 degrees to my right. I knew. Uh-oh. There he was, sitting there staring at me. So there you go. First time I was aware of it. Too bad I wasn't taught about that skill. Right? As soon as we could speak. Too bad we weren't taught to enhance that skill, right? All right, here we go. Next up. Hi, Steve. I love your YouTube videos. I appreciate your taking the responsibility of sharing normal people's extraordinary experiences. I get the feeling that you may not be interested in making contact with the beings that you have become aware of, but you might consider it. Joan Ocean, Joanne or Joan, has written quite a bit about her positive experiences making contact with them. And Dr. Stephen Greer is making contact with extraterrestrial beings following a similar protocol. You might watch his documentary called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I know it probably seemed a little nutty to suggest these off-the-wall things to a respectable man who is very much in his right mind, but the reason that the truth cannot be known yet is because humans are too small-minded and fearful. Many, not all, of these beings would like to support us, but cannot come out and do so in the open. Humans are capable of atrocious behavior when faced with things they cannot comprehend, and therefore deeply fear. Thank you for keeping your commitment to the connection between man and earth and showing others. Sincerely, Channing in Texas. Thanks, Channing. Appreciate it, man. We'll see. Right? There is one thing. I mean, we only get one crack at being alive that we know of, for sure, anyway. And I've said it many times in the past, you know, I want the truth to be known. I want to hear everybody's truth. I want everybody to be heard. But I also want to enjoy what I'm passionate about. I don't want to strip from me. So it's something you can't just dive in and make a decision overnight. All right, I'm going to go meet them. Because until you thoroughly have to investigate and figure it out, find out if there's something you may be inviting into your life that you won't be able to shake, which may result in you either losing your marbles or losing your freedom to go outside of a home, etc., right? But we'll see. I've got a bunch of things happening that I don't speak openly about as well, okay? So trust me, I'm working on as much as I can to take this all to the next level for everyone. I am. I'm just not sharing why yet. Anyway, thanks for that email. Next up, Unexplained Light. Hi, Steve. I thought I'd share a story with you. It's not a hair-raising or scary, but I thought it was peculiar when it happened. I'm a seasoned outdoorsman with many years in the woods and mountains, and I grew up in rural Michigan, and have always been comfortable outside day or night. Okay, side note, just so everybody knows, just so everybody who's sitting watching and hasn't shared yet, there's no threshold to make before you share your email. It doesn't have to be scary or exciting or hair-raising. We don't care. Doesn't matter. N.A. You seen something odd that you experienced and you believe you need help with, or something you can share that helps me or the people, that's what we want, all right? We just need honesty here. That's it. There's no level of excitement or nothing. I'm babbling. Sorry. In October of 1998, I was elk hunting in Colorado, southwest of Steamboat, a few hours. I shot a cow elk, returned to camp to inform my partners, then returned to my elk and waited for the others to get to me with a quad. It was about an hour after sunset and growing darker. As I sat and waited, I noticed the pine tree in front of me was casting a shadow. There's no moon, so obviously I thought that was odd. The tree was only about 5 foot in height, and the shadow was being cast on the south side of the tree. I looked to the north and saw the source of the light. It looked like a star in the sky, but was growing brighter. It never moved up or down or side to side. I couldn't tell how far away it was, maybe half a mile or 15 miles, I don't know. It never made a sound. And after about 2 minutes, it started to fade, then just disappeared. Not a real scary story, but after hearing one of the other emails you have read, I believe it was in the area of one of your emailers, just an hour or south of his position. Keep up your great work on these topics. I've always thought the government keeps too many secrets. If our current Mars mission does discover something, do you really think they would reveal it to us? Point taken. Good luck with everything. And stay safe, Matt. You too, Matt. Appreciate you sending that in, man. You know, there's been a lot of people around the globe have reported all of a sudden it went to broad daylight in the middle of the night. And then the lights out again. Not just from one person, but from many. Isn't that bizarre? We just got to keep going. Keep going. What's this one? Make sure this is okay. Make sure it's relating to what we're trying to get at. Hi, Steve. My name is John Vidler. Don't care if you use my name. Probably not exciting as most, but nonetheless strange. In the mid-1990s, can't remember the exact year, I was hunting mule deer in eastern Oregon. Our hunt was over for the day because light had faded. We're in a mid-70s Chev truck, just lumbering our way up a dirt road, headed back to camp. The truck had bad exhaust and was loud. Myself and a friend were standing in the back of the truck, leaning over the cab. 2 in the cab. Off to the right. 2 in the cab. I'll say, all right, sorry. So 2 in the back, 2 in the cab. Off to the right, a sound, a scream, whatever you want to call it. It was so loud. Unexplainable sound. It overpowered everything. We stopped, then all agreed to get out fast. When we started moving again, every animal in the forest was escaping, right to left. Birds, coyotes, deer, everything. The deer were leaping the road in one bound. Whatever it was scared everything, and 10 times louder than anything I've ever heard. We were all armed with high-caliber rifles and sidearms. We were all scared. Very scared. True story. Thanks for listening. No name... Oh, John? And I believe you 110%. 110%. See, that's the kind of recording that we don't get, right? Nobody has. Well, once. Those woodcutters south of Fort McMurray. That was a terrifying recording. But that's it. So far. Okay, this one's not too long. This is titled, I stumbled upon your channel when you were doing hunt stories. The very first one was about the old boy that brought meth-filled cartridges with him. That's funny shit. Probably had the fastest rounds in town. Haha, yeah. Yeah, it was kind of funny, I guess maybe, but it wasn't at all funny to live that experience with that scumbag from southern Georgia. I grew up around the small town of Kansas where you have done some turkey hunting. I've hunted and fished around there my whole life. I go out after dark in the summertime, usually around 9:30, 10 p.m., and will sit on the riverbank with a case of beer and a couple of fishing poles and chase the flathead catfish and blue cat until the sun comes up, or I run out of beer. 9 times out of 10, I'm alone, and usually without light because a lantern will attract a shit ton of mosquitoes. I really enjoy just sitting up by myself and just clearing my mind. I've heard stories my whole childhood about weird shit that goes on out there. Plus, you never know what kind of situation you might wind up in when you're alone in the river bottoms, where other people have access to as well. It is not remote by any means, but if something happens out there, more than likely you won't be able to get to a better situation as quick as you probably need to. So I'm always packing a sidearm. This particular night was no different. I was fishing a spot that was public, and I had multiple fishing, and I'd fished multiple times before. Probably only a 15-minute truck ride to town after a 15-minute hike from the water to your truck. There's a water return line about 15 feet out into the river, and if you didn't know it was there, which I did in the first time I fished it, it would scare the shit out of you when the water came back into the river. It's probably 8 feet under the surface, and blows out and makes a 50-foot area turn to whitewater rapids in about 10 seconds. Anyway, I'm sitting there drinking beer in the pitch black, listening for the clickers on my reels to start whining, when that water return line opened up. I even knew it was probably going to happen soon, and it still made my butthole pucker. As soon as it shut off and I could hear again, there was a hell of a noise across the river. Trees were getting broke off and slung around. Then giant rocks started landing in the water. It sounded like something was climbing a tree and jumping onto the ground over and over again. I then heard what sounded like whooping 3 or 4 times, then something walking away. After all that shit, which lasted maybe 5 to 10 seconds, I got this real weird feeling. Not really scared, but just weird. Like I was extremely excited to get the F out of there, but I didn't feel fear. Hard to explain, but I'm sure someone knows what I'm talking about. I never saw any of this stuff happen. It was all by hearing it, and my mind just trying to put pictures to the sounds. I picked up everything. It took 2 trips to get to the water, but only 1 to get back to the truck. I never ran, but moved faster than I normally did, and still felt weird. Get back to the truck, cracked another cold beer, and started to think that I felt weird because maybe my beer was skunky or something. Hell, I didn't know. Then I started listening to you, and maybe it was one of those beings just passing through, sitting across the river watching me, and the water coming back in scared them. I was still hunting fish, still 90% of the time by myself. Hell, I've even been back to that same spot a couple times alone and late at night. Anyways, figured I'd share this with y'all. Don't really care if anyone believes me or not, or thinks I was drinking. I was drinking, but I know what went across from me. Just can't explain what it was, but I think everyone knows. Have a good day, Steve. Hope to hear from some more of your guiding stories and other people's experiences too. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I've been thinking about that lately. I especially after writing this last book, I would like to get back into sharing some more crazy adventure stories. I'm just at a bit of a cluster right now with various things. But I appreciate you sending that in, and I'm super stoked and glad you did, because somebody around there has probably had the same experience, right? And they needed to hear that. For sure. I think I read this. Read it. Hold on a minute. All right, here's another one. This is titled Cougar Story and a couple Sasquatch stories. All right, here we go. Steve, enjoy your YouTube videos. Check them out regularly. I spent lots of hours in the woods on hunting and fishing trips. Lots of time I'm alone. First deer at 15, and I'm now 70. I live in the woods just south of Mount St. Helens, Washington. I've been here 3 years and not seen or heard anything like you've talked about until January 22 of this year. The dog needed to go out to do his morning business. It was exactly daybreak. We wandered around the fenced backyard for a couple minutes, and then I heard 3 knocks. It sounded about 100 yards away, just on the other side of a small stream on the neighbor's property. The knocks were very firm and loud in the still of the morning. I'm out in the backyard almost every morning at first light, and that's the only time I've heard anything like that. The dog did not respond in any way, so I thought we were okay. I really did not want to see one, but I know they exist. About 12 years ago, my daughter got married, about 12 miles south of here in the town of Yacolt, Washington. You've done a story from there recently. Yeah, I remember reading that town name. After the party at my daughter's house, one of my friends from Seattle and his girlfriend were driving back to their motel in town. On the 2-lane highway south of Yacolt, in the oncoming headlights, an exceptionally large human-shaped figure was standing alongside the road, illuminated from 2 sets of headlights. They just looked at each other after driving past it, and both knew what they had seen. Excuse me. About 10 years ago, another friend and his wife went late-season tent camping somewhere along the river up the Cowlitz River Valley. They seemed to be the only camp around. During the night, they were harassed by small rocks and fir tree cones being tossed to their tent. They looked around with a flashlight, saw nothing, had an uneasy feeling, packed up and went home. One of my hunting stories, and actually a very close call, happened while turkey hunting, central Washington, between Clelam, C-L-E-E-L-U-M, and Ellensburg, north of I-90. I'd been there the week before with the same guy that had the stuff thrown in his tent. We heard turkey in the distance, but no luck. I went back alone and walked in the mile and a half behind the lock gate. Got in there nice and early, headed up the ridge. I spent all day up there and checked out areas I had not been to previously. In the late afternoon, I heard turkey near the stream in the bottom of the valley near the road I'd walked in on. So I headed slowly down a logged clearing. I would hear the turkey every so often since they were being very vocal that day. And as I was nearing the road, I caught movement. A small herd of 8 to 10 elk. They came into the clearing near me, and I finally stepped out from behind the tree and they left. I was more interested in another call to see where the turkeys were. I sat in the clearing on a small stump and made a series of calls. No response. I waited a bit and tried again. And all of a sudden, all hell broke loose about 30 yards away in the brush. Something was running through the brush, but I couldn't see a thing. A few seconds later, 2 mule deer ran across the road about 100 yards away, across the creek, up the other side of the small valley, and snorting like crazy all the way. Less than 30 seconds, it was over. It was getting late, so I started walking down the road, headed for the gate and my rig. I wanted out of there before dark. When I got to the spot where the deer crossed the road, there was a cougar in the small clearing by the creek with a deer's neck in his mouth. The deer wasn't moving. Holy crap, that started about 30 yards from me. It must have sounded like an easy meal. I must have sounded like an easy meal. Thank God the deer were in the bushes. I now always set up to turkey call with something at my back. Keep up with the interesting stories, Gary. Yeah, no doubt, Gary. Coincidentally, unfortunately, a couple young guys had a bad cougar accident the other day, right? One of them died, one of them got killed, and the other one was wounded by it. They're opportunists. They'll kill and eat anything. I've had the most nastiest, rotten, disgusting meat that I've made rotten intentionally. And a mom cat and kittens dug that shit out of the snow all winter and ate all of it. It's like, oh, they'll eat anything. But sadly, they do attack and kill humans. They've killed a lot of humans in Vancouver Island, a lot of children. But you're right about calling and having your back up against something. Me too. Usually, though, I'm trying not to call the grizzly bear into my back. But usually that's not... It has happened to a lot of guys. An older guy got killed calling in moose not far from where I hunt up north. Was calling moose by himself, an older guy, and a grizzly came and dummied him. Shitty's part of the game, I guess. Not that common part of the game. It's part of the game. You got to watch your back. Calling in game, right? Because when we're calling in game, we're sounding like the prey. Every time. Unless we're calling wolves, but that's different. Yeah. I don't think about cats too much at all when I'm hunting. I know they're there. Not too much. But anyway, my brain's reeling. I've got the stuff I'm going to get going here on, and yeah. I've got stuff going on. Let's just say that, all right? Then I'll be back again. And again, I loaded up a video today. Should be loaded up for the subscription part of this channel, which goes to feeding children. That should be up today. But here's another video today for everyone who chooses not to use that option, which is fine. So there you go. Share my story at howtohunt.com. All right? Word for word. I don't give a shit. Do not think it might not be good enough. That's not a factor in this channel at all. If it happened, we want to hear about it. All right? Word for word, it'll get shared. And you may not think so, but whatever you have to share might help someone as well. Someone in your community. Someone here, it might help me. Whatever, all right? So, please, don't think it's not worthy of sharing, all right? I'll be back again. Tomorrow we're going to make a video in the woods. Going in the woods tomorrow. Have to. But I got a lot of work to get done first. Enough babbling. Later.